In today's video, I'm going to share key ideas from the book that gave me the most ahas and insights about my relationship with money. We all want happiness, peace, contentment, working with a sense of purpose, I think. And Pilgrim and her teachings have impacted my life such that I no longer feel anxious about money or worry about things that are not in my control. I feel much more relaxed about work, money, everything really, and I'm hoping that it does the same for you. Hi, I'm Cleona, a London-based financial advisor. I love making content about freedom and clarity with money and sharing it with you. And I do find that her philosophy would help a lot of people who have anxiety about money and feel not so in control about life and where their life is going. So the key teachings are need level versus want level, simplistic view of life versus materialistic view, happiness and peace as priority versus success measured in money or material things, harmony between inner and outer well-being. Usually we see that inner well-being lags behind the outer well-being. Self-will or my place versus place in life's pattern or the divine plan, and self-centered actions from my little ego versus serving for the good of the whole. Now you may think, what does a woman who walked around the country for peace with no belongings have to teach me about money? Especially someone who seems to have rejected money, opted out of mainstream living, when that's not my reality. I need to earn money, I have bills, I have a mortgage, etc. Not so quick to reject her philosophy. Now, Pilgrim, she followed a healthy diet, vegetarian. She sounds like she had a lot of integrity, but it's quite easy for the body to be put on a diet. It's far harder for the mind. And she said that junk thoughts can destroy you even more quickly than junk food. She was a big believer in getting rid of any bitter or unkind thoughts, as they would hurt you more than anyone. And she also believed in the purity of motives and desires. Is your desire about superficial pleasures like, the latest fashion and, being more accepted and loved because you're cool? Nothing wrong with that. Or is it something deeper, like to know and do your part in life's pattern, as she put it? If you ever did any kind of meditation, and I've done some 10-day silent retreats, I've seen how quickly my mind gets disturbed by a less peaceful thought. And then your body also simultaneously quickly gets agitated. For example, I notice when I get annoyed, there is a heat in my belly area and a general feeling of discomfort. And then because the sensation in my body is quite uncomfortable, I want to do something to get rid of that sensation. So we only have to observe our thoughts and its effects on us for a few moments to see that what she says is true. When you generate some negativity in your mind, the first person to get disturbed is you. And one of the clues is to ask if the thought or action brings you inner peace. If not, she says, keep seeking. If you don't feel free and secure about money, about life, fully, all the time, completely, then when you observe your thoughts, you'll probably start to see that many of them are about insecurity and fear. You don't necessarily want to suppress them or fight them because that doesn't lead to peace. It's just an internal conflict. But you also don't have to go with that thought. You can observe it and let it pass. Like a train coming into a station that you just notice comes in and then leaves. But you don't have to go in every train that passes into the station. The purity of motive in her view must be about giving, not getting. And she said the secret of life is about service. And I love this line. Money itself is quite incidental. When you work for the good of the whole, you have endless energy. She believed that this was not a religious principle, but a law of nature, like the law of gravity. In this world, you are given as you give. We can also see that in the business world. AT&T executive Robert Greenleaf talked about servant leadership, which is a similar principle to prioritizing the needs of employees and even the less privileged of society. And there's a lot of research about Homo sapiens, which is humans, that we are the most cooperative species, much more than mole rats or, other kinds of species. So we are built for this game of making life wonderful, of giving and receiving and cooperation. But we are also quite capable of altruistic punishment, remembering when people have been unkind and mean and then withholding. Peace Pilgrim, whose birth name was Mildred, was an American spiritual teacher, pacifist, vegetarian activist, and peace activist. And she walked on average 25 miles a day and more than 25,000 miles for peace, after which she stopped counting. I don't know about you, but I aim for 10,000 steps a day, and that's 5 miles. And I've walked sometimes 12 or 14 on walking holidays, and then when I get back to my bed and breakfast, I'm so tired that my body just falls asleep. So Peace Pilgrim was fueled or plugged into a source of energy that was quite endless. She also talked about relinquishments, and the one that stood out for me was the relinquishment, I think relinquishment means giving up, of the feeling of separateness. One could argue that when we feel separate from each other, which is an illusion, we are also interconnected and interdependent, and we've seen with the pandemic that we literally share one immune system. One could argue that this feeling keeps us in a state of being willing to be quite violent towards each other and other living beings. In reality, she said, we are all cells in the body of humanity, which I think is quite cool. And she advised not to work for our own selfish little cell, but for the good of the whole, and that it's a more harmonious way to live. And science backs up that we enjoy playing cooperative games as humans, and it feels much healthier for the body to live harmoniously. Now, how did Peace Pilgrim fund her life, you may ask? She was born poor, though she did attend university and enjoyed some privileges. She grew up in America, she was white, but she gave up all of this and her belongings, and she took a vow of simplicity. In 1953, with the Korean War in the backdrop, which she was very against in a peaceful way, she became a pilgrim, which is a wanderer with purpose. She didn't ask for help or money or take a penny of anyone. She walked until given shelter and fasted until given food. And I think this is quite important. She believed that there was a spark of goodness in everybody. Now, she wasn't naive, and sometimes she did get out of situations that she felt were unsafe for her, but this general assumption of goodness, I think, is quite a beautiful one. She realized that if you don't have enough, you won't be happy, but neither if you have too much. So that was her realization: enough, but not too much to be happy. Unnecessary possessions are unnecessary burdens. If you have them, you have to take care of your things. If you have more houses, you have more things to take care of. And she shares many stories about people who are tied down by wealth or possessions and not happy. I'm sure you can think of people in your life who have more than enough and still look quite miserable. She said all human beings are equal and have a job to do in the divine plan. She also talked about the relinquishment of self-will. Now, we hear many teachings about the ego, Eckhart Tolle and his videos on YouTube, and then there are books like The Ego is the Enemy, and we can sometimes operate like we exist as the center of the universe. And we also see so much unconsciousness collectively. We are slaves to the self-centered nature, and in her observation, we could choose to practice living in harmony instead. Now, this is not New Age thinking, because if you watch Peace Pilgrim's videos on YouTube, you can see that she exudes peace and happiness, and she really is quite congruent with living in this philosophy. For me, the biggest teaching is this paragraph though. When you know your part in the scheme of things, in the divine plan, there is never a feeling of inadequacy. You are always given the resources for any situation, any obstacle. There is no strain, there is always security. There is no security in bomb shelters or having the latest nuclear weapons. But of course, when we put our faith in material security, we may believe erroneously that this is the case. I also don't want to be naive and think we don't need to protect ourselves against abuse or abusive situations. Not at all. We must protect ourselves as necessary. And because of my exposure to nonviolent communication, I like the discernment between the protective use of force and the punitive use of force to punish. And I hope you can also see where Peace Pilgrim was coming from. She had a strong, unshakable faith that she would be taken care of. Her needs would be taken care of, and they were. And I have to say that the more I relax into thinking that I will be taken care of, that my needs will be taken care of, that I'm not as much in control of my life as I think, life feels more peaceful. For me, the biggest takeaway is that Peace Pilgrim did fine with no money. She slept under the stars if she needed to, and she was the richest of the rich because she had health, happiness, and inner peace. And those things are free. You can't buy those things even as a millionaire. Now, I have a London-sized mortgage, which is pretty big, and bills, and you probably have lots of bills too. And I can't see myself opting out to work for peace or being selfless like Peace Pilgrim, because I like having money. I like spending and enjoying certain things in life for which I would need a certain amount of money. But I can take away many things from Peace Pilgrim. Like, I can focus on my needs, what's enough but not too much. Notice when I operate from my self-centered self, my ego, which is a lot of the time. And try to focus on thoughts or actions that focus on the good of the whole. And trust that somehow I am taken care of through all the obstacles and challenges of life. And so are you. I hope you do read the book and take what resonates from her teachings, as they're so valuable, and feel free to reject what doesn't work for you. Thanks for watching, and see you on the next video.